here we go. New book, new music, same low-effort intro. Let's have some fun. Of course, we'll begin with the Ninja no Chigiri. I am Ninja. My parents are the heaven and the earth. My home is my body. My power is loyalty. My magic is training. My life and my death is breathing. My body is control. My eyes are the sun and the moon. My ears are sensitivity. My laws are self-protection. My strength is adaptability. My ambition is taking every opportunity with fullness. My friend is my mind. My enemy is carelessness. My protection is right action. My weapons are everything that exists. My strategy is one foot in front of the other. My trust is in Quan. My way is the way of the tiger. Hello everybody, I'm Raphael Perry, and it's time for some more of The Way of the Tiger. We're going to do things a little bit differently in today's episode. You'll see why when I do it, and you'll understand why. Even though we're in this section over here, it has something to do with this section over here. Back at the temple to Quan, you tell the High Grandmaster that you will make your attempt on the Usurper's life tomorrow, when he will be sitting in judgment on more wrongly accused innocents in the throne room. The High Grandmaster tells you that the dungeon the soothsayer spoke of leads directly into the throne room, and you agree that it will provide an ideal route of attack against the unsuspecting usurper. The Grandmaster cautions you that men tell awful tales of horrors that lurk below the palace, but that he knows of a secret way into the dungeons. If you search out the tomb of the long-dead Lord Kalman in the cemetery, and pull down on the torch bracket that lights his epitaph, a doorway will open in the tomb. He has another piece of help for you. One of the soothsayers from the Green has given him a message. It seems that the mausoleum of a former Lord of Irsmuncast holds a circlet which holds a potent magic against the usurper. That's the second time we've been told of this, but it is now more detailed. I think the first time we may have been given a name of Lord Telmain III. You tell the High Grandmaster that the signal for the monks to attack will be the lowering of the usurper's flag on the palace. When all of your preparations are complete, you retire to meditate and then sleep. In the morning you walk alone towards the cemetery, dwelling on the High Grandmaster's last words to you. Farewell, and remember, Avenger, many before have tried to kill the usurper and failed. May Quan guide you. Now, the next section of the adventure has an issue, which is the Jade Lotus. When we first, section 304, wasn't it? When we went to meet the merchant. Not 304. Okay. Well then, let's see. Where is he, big fat biffer? blubbery hut of putrescence. No, not that picture, although it will be very relevant shortly. There we go. When we met Goldsby the merchant, and we weren't going to make such massive concessions as to be, frankly, very unfair and unjust, he gave us a jade lotus as a token of his esteem for our late father. However, we then revealed that he was about to betray us. And upon us informing him of this, he has decided not to betray us. However, we still have the Jade Lotus, which he gave to us when he was planning to betray us. And while it may be a token of support in the next book, I'm not sure if he gives us the Jade Lotus if we agree to his demands. Actually, let's go back and check. I'm not going to read the full details. 184, come on. But the Jade Lotus becomes important in the near future because it proves he has betrayed us, even though we have definitive proof that he will never betray us now. At least not in that way. So if we agree to give him what he wants... he asks about our plans. I can bribe him, he's probably always going to like that. 159, 130. Yeah, he... Okay, so if we give him what he wants, he still gives us the Jade Lotus, right? So he was always going to betray us. Yep. Red Coral instead of Jade Lotus. So if we agree to give him what he wants, but then don't give him a lot of details that he could tell to our enemies, then he gives us something else. However, we're going back to section 7 because it was given in betrayal, like a Judas kiss. I'm going to leave this item behind at the Temple of Quan, or maybe give it away to charity or something, because I won't be allowed to come and pick it up afterwards. However, for the beginning of this episode, I'm going to pretend I have this item, so that you can all see what I'm doing. The reason I'm doing this is because I don't trust him. I didn't trust... Well, while I could trust him that he won't betray me now, he gave me this as a sign of betrayal. It may be recognized if we carry it openly, or someone might smell it, even though it's made of jade and not an actual lotus. You know, it may be they have a scrying spell key to it or something. I'm not taking it with me. He didn't take it away from me when he decided to not betray me, but as soon as the Jade Lotus has been given, the betrayal is done. So us convincing him not to betray us has no effect at all. You wend your way through the cemetery to the tomb of Lord Calmon. You pass through the ornately carved portals of the entrance into the darkness below. You draw out a torch and light it. It sputters into flame, filling the tomb with a flickering red glow, illuminating the single sarcophagus in the centre of the ancient chamber. You walk to the wall beyond the sarcophagus and pull at the wrought iron torch bracket. There is a low rumble and a section of the wall slides open. The mechanism is well oiled and the wall is free of dust. This entrance has been used recently, perhaps even regularly. Beyond the opening, a flight of rough-hewn steps lead downwards into darkness. You come out into a corridor. Cold flagstones line the floor, and as you walk around, the light from your torch, like a moving globe of luminescence, reveals painted murals on the walls. They show scenes of battle between the men, and many different types of creatures. Orcs, dark elves, ogres, and other hideous monsters. You recognize the coat of arms of your family on many of the human warriors. After a while, you come to the end of the corridor, an archway leading to blackness beyond, and at this point, we are asked if we carry the jade lotus flower, and we're going to, at first, pretend we had it, because he did give it to us. But then we're going to come back and pretend we don't have it, because I said I'm leaving it behind and not taking it with me anymore. It occurs to me that the torch that lights the monument, the torch bracket, there doesn't need to be a torch in it. If this was a computer game, there might be a number of torch brackets around the monument, only one of which would cast light upon the monument, and the only way to determine this would be to place a lit torch within it and see where a light was cast, and then pull down on that one. If it was a Resident Evil game, you just have to have the light shine on it from that position correctly. Even if you were carrying a torch and shone it on it, that somehow wouldn't count. So, anyway, pretending we have the jade lotus flower, because we kind of do. You step through the archway and your torch illuminates a natural cavern and another carved archway in the wall opposite you. Suddenly there is a slight sound and a lantern flares up near the opposite archway, startling you. A man is standing beside it. He is naked, save for a loincloth, and unarmed. He is slim and wiry, with dark eyes that seem to glitter with a sinister luster in the low light. You cannot help noticing that he is unusually hirsute. You regard each other in silence for a moment. Then he takes a slow step towards you, and then another with great deliberation, his eyes never leaving yours. As he draws a little closer, you can see the flickering flame of your torch reflected in his eyes, and it seems as if you are looking directly into the fires of his soul. He stops some 15 feet away from you and sinks into a half-crouch, his elbows tucked in at the waist, staring at you with a burning intensity as if he yearned for something only you could give him. He snarls, his teeth large and sharp, glinting in the torchlight. Then he speaks slowly, his voice deep and mellow, almost a purr. "Greetings. You must be the rightful overlord of Irsmuncast. Golspiel has told me all about you." He stands as still as stone, only the jaws moving. We do have the skill of Shinren, and it is reasonably useful in this situation. You sense the intent behind the man, reading his body. You detect hostility towards you, but there is something else about him, something indefinable and alien which you cannot understand. We could wait to see what he does next. Attack him by using a poison needle? No. Hurl a shuriken, or the silver shuriken, which is very special. And I want to point out something here. We're going to pretend throw the silver ninja star. Your hand, a blur of movement, you send a silver shuriken spinning towards him. He starts in surprise, and your aim is true. The shuriken embeds itself in his shoulder. He staggers back in pain, but then begins to shriek in agony, clawing at the shuriken as if it were burning into him. Desperately, he rips it out and throws it aside, as if it were burning in even his hand. You may note that he has lost 7 from his endurance. We are not told to mark off the silver shuriken, and there is a later opportunity to use it. Usually, shuriken are marked off when used. However, at the later opportunity, it's not removed either, even though it probably should be at that point. Suddenly he snarls. The lips draw back over his teeth, and there is a wet tearing sound as horribly his jaw elongates, splitting out of his skull. His teeth grow in front of your very eyes, the canine shooting forwards. Fur begins to sprout all over him, and his arms and legs crack and shudder, the bones growing, his hands and feet lengthening into taloned paws. His eyes burn with feral ferocity, the pupils changing into cat-like slits glowing redly. Your hand shocked into immobility. You stand shocked into immobility for a moment as a man becomes a wolf before you. Then the werewolf throws back his head and howls, a long, ululating call, a terrible sound that echoes around the chambers, filling your soul with dread. Then he drops to all fours and leaps towards you, snarling ferociously. At this, you are galvanized into action, virtually a reflex action for you now. And then we fight him. We fight a werewolf. All because Gullspiel the Merchant gave us a Jade Lotus. Now, this makes sense if we had not used the power of Shinren to make him realize, to make him realize that betraying us would be a very bad idea and he's not going to do it because we found out what he's up to and could kill him on the spot. We are asked if we have the power of Shinren here, which would be an interesting opportunity, right, to insert the power of Shinren before the werewolf says hello. Okay. Before he says greetings and introduces himself. And then if we had the power of Shinren, that would mean we obviously used it on Gullspiel the Merchant. So the merchant hasn't told the werewolf about us. And the werewolf would be like, oh, have you got a Jade Lotus? No. Oh, I thought so. Right. Okay, no worries. You go on past. You're probably not up to anything serious. And we could probably bluff our way past. But that's not the case. We are just forced into a fight. So that is why I have discarded the Jade Lotus, and it is not to be used, or possessed or owned in any way, shape or form. I will now show you what happens if we don't have the Jade Lotus. This section is a mirror of, that is a copy of the section after the werewolf fight. If we fight the werewolf, we get nothing special for it apart from potentially a very nasty infection, which I don't think we can cure in this book, and will carry on to future books of the series. Although the mirror is written slightly differently to reflect the fact that we've just been through a fight. You step through the archway and your torch illuminates a natural cavern, the flames creating 1,000 flickering shadows around its walls. Straight ahead lies another archway and you cross the cavern floor, eyes and ears alert for anything unexpected, but everything is quiet. Entering the archway, you continue on. After a few yards, a foul odour reaches your nostrils from up ahead, and strange snarling sounds echo down the tunnel. Rounding a... Oh! So the werewolf is nearby, but he hasn't been warned about us. Rounding a bend, you can see torchlight up ahead. Quickly, you douse your torch and edge your way silently towards the source of light. As you do so, the sound and smell grow stronger. Soon you are hidden in the shadows of the tunnel, looking into a large square room carved out of the rock. In its centre stands a large smoke billowing up to be lost in the darkness above. In its centre stands a large fire, smoke billowing up to be lost in the darkness above. Around it are arranged 2 long oak tables, strewn with all kinds of drink and food, mostly meat, half raw and half eaten. At the tables sit 3 bulky beasts dressed in greasy leather armour with large wooden clubs at their side. They are gross and misshapen, their skin a greyish-green colour, warty and mottled. Their fat faces have wide, splayed nostrils and rotting teeth. Their huge beards are matted with filth. You recognize them as cave trolls. What interests you most is the blackened and stained livery they are wearing, for it bears the arms of the stag with the spiral horned antlers, the symbol of the Usurper. It seems these cave trolls are in his service, kept out of harm's way down here, but ready to be called upon if necessary. They are drinking heavily and arguing amongst themselves, their growling voices animal-like, barely discernible. Beyond them, you can see another archway where the corridor continues. You can see no other exit. You must try to get through. If you have the skill of climbing, you may try to climb upwards into the shadows and make your way around the cavern to the exit. Otherwise, if you do not wish to climb, you may spring straight out to the fire and throw some of your flash powder into it, then spring for the exit. I'm not going to say it, although it may be in the episode title. I'm sure many of you have thought it already. We do have the skill of climbing, although using skills can sometimes get us into trouble. I like how one on the right looks a bit like Brian Blessed with his beard all the way down to there. He's like, "Roar! Gordon's alive!" I'm not going to try climbing. We have the flash powder. It's more reliable. These things are large and brutish. They probably won't cover their eyes in time. Let's flash. Savior of the universe. Except he's not. One man in his trench coat. Keeps flashing. Gets arrested eventually. Without a moment's hesitation, you take your powder in one hand and sprint into the room directly towards the fire. The cave trolls surge up from their seats in astonishment, bellowing and howling in apparent glee at what they see as their next meal offering itself up to them. But they are too slow to prevent you from reaching the fire, and you hurl the dust, averting your eyes as you do so. There is a blinding flash, and you sprint on. The cave trolls are lumbering about, hands pressed to their eyes, moaning in pain. You reach the archway and turn to face them, where only one can reach you at a time. Your ruse has worked perfectly. After a few seconds, they regain their sight and lope towards you, howling in rage, beating the ground with their clubs. When their slow-witted minds have registered the fact that they can't all attack you at once, they come to a stop and look at each other dully. The largest, a great hulking brute, smiling horribly to reveal yellow tusks, shuffles up to you, swinging his enormous club as if it were a match. It will not be possible to throw the cave troll in this limited space, nor do you think it likely you could anyway, due to its great size and weight. But you can try a tiger's paw chop or the leaping tiger kick. We do not have the skill of jujitsu, but it would probably be very useful here. A flying kick could leave us a bit exposed. We'll go for the tiger's paw chop instead. You dart in under the sweeping blows of the troll and chop your hand at the cave troll's ribs. It has 20 endurance. This is going to be a tough fight. For two reasons. Firstly, the cave troll's defense against tiger paw chop is 5. Okay. And our punch modifier is +1? +1. We have successfully chopped him. For 6 damage. That's really quite good. If you reduce the troll to 8 or less endurance, so we don't need to kill him, there's a mid-fight development, or he'll give up and decide he's taken enough damage. If it has 9 or more endurance, it tries to crush you with its tree trunk-like arms. Your defense is 8 as you dodge its sluggish attack. Well, in that case, It rolls a double one. We dodge. We're fine. If you're still alive, will you punch again or try to kick? We don't know if kicking will... because it's a flying kick and involves a jump forwards, a leap, that will move our centre of gravity, our body, whereas with the chop we kind of reach out and strike at him and dart back again. So I will carry on for a punch. We hit him again. Oh, another 6 damage. That's great. Unbelievably. I was going to say, if he did hit us, I would have attempted to block, because we're not here to fight the troll. We're here to fight the Usurper. Any damage we take along the way only makes that fight harder. We have now reduced his endurance to exactly 8. You have dealt with it severely, and your last blow sends it staggering back, gasping in pain. It drops its club and backs up, moaning and eyeing you fiercely. It doubles up and hugs itself, whimpering pathetically. At the sight of the largest amongst them cowering in agony, the other two back away, obviously not prepared to take you on. Smiling to yourself at their cowardly bullying nature, you turn your back on them and move on down the tunnel. Relighting your torch, you follow the tunnel for some time, padding silently through the darkness. It opens into a well-crafted square room with walls of dressed stone. In the wall opposite stands an oak door with leather panels studded with brass hooks. The right-hand wall is smooth and flat, save for the faint outline of a door. In the middle of this outline is a small depression about the size of a coin. Examining it carefully, you can make out an heraldic pattern carved into the stone. It is a hippogriff, part of the coat of arms of your own family. If you have played Book 2, Assassin, and have a brass signet ring, which we did in fact gain in the Goblin Tunnels, then we can do something here. If not, we would have to carry on without it. And this does seem almost to be something so useful that not having it would seriously screw us over. We do indeed have the ring. With a flash of insight, you remember that the brass signet ring, which also depicts a hippogriff that is just the right size to fit into the depression. That's amazing, because the signet was not described in Book 2, it was just a brass signet ring, right? Probably because they hadn't decided what it was going to look like yet, and that was then defined at the start of this book. You take it out and place it into the hole. It fits perfectly. Suddenly there is a loud click and a grinding sound, and the slab in front of you begins to sink into the ground. Bright light floods out from the room beyond. Walking through the secret entrance, you find yourself in a large circular chamber. Immediately before you, on the ground, is a stone slab, the resting place of a long-dead lord of Irsmuncast. In the centre of the room stands a marble plinth, upon which rests a thin gold circlet. It is adorned with a single sparkling ruby that glitters in the light. This must be the item you were told would be of use against the Usurper. The plinth is surrounded by a ring of flames. You cannot discern what the flames are feeding off. Indeed, there is something very odd about the fire. It gives off a bright white light, and the flames flicker and burn about an inch off the ground. The flames are a coppery yellow and seem insubstantial in some way. Stepping closer, you pass your hand through the flame. An agonizing pain fills your soul for an instant, burning at the core of your being. You realize that these are not physical flames, but ethereal flames, and that they would not leave your skin and your clothes and skin charred and blackened, but your very soul itself. Do you have a bottle containing waters of protection against ethereal flame? We do not. I'm not sure where we would have got that, possibly from a merchant, or if we'd taken the other route on the map instead of the one we did to get here. Sadly, we have no such item. Will you leave the chamber and go through the brass-studded oak door, or try to dash through the flames and grab the circlet? I think we shall make the attempt. We've come too far to give up now. You run as fast as you can and leap towards the plinth. You find yourself in the midst of the flames as they lick and crackle about you, then throw back your head and scream in pain as 1,000 needles are driven into every nerve of your body, and your mind is seared by an awful heat. You're in so much pain that you can barely move. Desperately you try to force yourself on. If you have any inner force left. Yes, we have 4 points of inner force. Otherwise, something very nasty could happen indeed. The agony is unendurable, but you manage a single step forwards. You call upon your innermost reserves of energy and manage to overcome the pain. Deduct 1 from your inner force. We now have 3 points of inner force remaining. You dart forward, grab the circlet and hurl yourself back through the flame, where you collapse in a heap, panting heavily. But you are unhurt. The pain was only temporary. You stand up and place the circlet on your head under the hood. It does not feel different in any way, but you know this must be the item you were told would be of use against the Usurper. You leave the circular chamber and find yourself back at the brass-studded oak door. You have little choice but to go through it. We now have the ruby circlet. And it will prove invaluable in the upcoming conflict. You approach the door and listen at it, but no sounds come to you from the other side. You put your hand on the door handle and turn it experimentally. It is unlocked, and you swing it open and step into a richly furnished room, the walls of which are lined with shelves packed with scrolls and books. Behind a large, ornately carved desk sits a strange figure looking up in surprise at you as you come in, with eyes that are completely white save for the pupils, 2 pinpoints of darkness. Its face is hideous. It is totally bald, the skin a pale blotchy colour below the flat nostrils of its boneless nose. 5 tentacles, each about a foot in length, writhe horribly. 5, not 4, legally distinct mind flayer. Just below these is the mouth, small and circular with sharp pointed teeth. It wears purple robes edged with gold, and there is an ancient tome open on the desk in front of you. Its hands end in 3 long, thin tentacles in place of fingers. You recognize it from ancient books and drawings as an old one, a race of creatures that inhabit the depth of the rift. Utterly evil and said to be schemers and ultimate leaders other than the gods of much there is... Utterly evil and said to be schemers and ultimate leaders other than the gods of much that is evil on orb. The Old Ones stand slowly, and so that's saying, apart from the gods, the Old Ones are leaders of all the evil stuff. So this being here is pretty serious business. The Old One stands slowly and speaks in a sibilant whispering voice, so not a mind flayer because it can speak. Mind flayers don't speak. They have a voice projector box on their belt buckle which translates their thoughts and psychic projections into vocal speech that is then heard and capable of being listened to by things incapable of thought, or things protected from some kind of mental projection. Also to give them this impression that they actually do speak. The Old One stands slowly and speaks in a sibilant, whispering voice. Additionally, the Old One appears on the cover of, I believe, Book 5. There we are, with its 5 tentacles. 1 for every book in the series up to this point, although that's probably not why it had 5. This is indeed an unexpected pleasure. Welcome, welcome. You must be Avenger, the rightful heir to the throne of Irsmuncast. I have heard a lot about you, ninja. The Usurper and I hoped you would not get this far. But it appears you are more resourceful than we had imagined. Still, it does mean the pleasure of your annihilation shall be all mine. Suddenly your mind is assailed by a blast of mental energy and you realize the Old One is launching a psychic attack against you. You feel your will literally beginning to shred under the awesome power of the creature's mind. You find yourself virtually unable to move, your mind locked in a deadly battle of wills. Do you have any inner force left? Yes, we do, but it's rapidly dwindling now. Remember, we were sent into this dungeon with at least 3 points of inner force restored. The only reason we would have none left now is if we had used it in a battle against the werewolves or the trolls. We might have looked at the troll and said, look, we want to do the damage as quickly as possible in case he hits us, ignoring the fact that our defense against him was rather high. The werewolf, another matter. Slowly, you can feel your mental defences slipping under the psychic onslaught, but you call upon your innermost stores of spiritual energy and find the strength to withstand the Old One. Subtract 1 from your inner force. We now have 2 points of inner force remaining. You can sense the surprise and frustrated rage in his mind. Then it redoubles its onslaught. As if from far away you can see the body of the Old One go rigid with effort. You cry out in pain as it tries to crush your mind. Will you try to hurl a shuriken at the Old One so as to break its psychic assault? Continue to resist its attack on your mind? Or, if you have the skill of feigning death, will you sink into a trance so that the Old One will be unable to reach your mind with its own? Yeah, but then our body kind of becomes comatose and it could probably go kill us with its bare hands or tentacles or something. We do not have the skill of feigning death. We could try and throw a shuriken at the Old One, but just to show you, if we do this, if we continue to resist his attack on our mind, it's going to cost us even more inner force. However, it is a guaranteed survival. If we want to throw a ninja star, it is not so guaranteed. Make a fate roll subtracting 2 from a fate modifier. Our fate modifier is +1, so we succeed on 6s, so we would need an 8+, slightly higher than your average 7+ roll. It's a bit risky, and if we fail, we just die. So, given that we could really do with the inner force points to survive in the upcoming struggles, I am sadly going to have to make this sacrifice in the interest of our prolonged survival to get to those struggles at all. I'm not feeling that confident with dice just yet. Also, I'm going to need good dice rolls in the upcoming encounters, and I should probably, you know, Iguchi, wasn't he the archer bodyguard from Book 2? And that when we could have gone and fought the... Yeah, that is well dodgy. Okay. Clearly the other path features stuff from previous books that could be very painful. Okay, so we're going to continue to resist. If you have no inner force left, then something bad probably happens. If you have, read on. You can feel the Old One's mental grasp tightening horribly, causing you to gasp with pain and effort. Somehow you manage to call on further reserves of energy. Subtract 1 from your inner force again. A few moments of almost unendurable agony pass by, and then abruptly the mental assault ceases. You stagger with the sudden release, weak and dizzy, but you soon regain control of yourself. The Old One backs away from you and says, "You are remarkably strong, Avenger. Stronger than I had thought possible, but can you withstand this?" With that, he passes his tentacled hand through the air in a series of complicated gestures. Suddenly, before your very eyes, an exact replica of yourself materializes before you, dressed as you. You gape in astonishment, but recover quickly as you see yourself assuming a position in the way of the tiger, as if ready to kick. The Old One stands behind your double in silent concentration. We could attack the duplicate, or calmly try to walk straight through and attack the Old One. I think this is an illusion. Taking a bit of a leap of faith here, but we were told to follow our heart earlier. Telling yourself it is but an illusion, you walk straight at your double. Just as you're about to strike it, it disappears. You realize it was an illusion after all, an illusion projected into your own mind, and by disbelieving it, you are able to banish it from your sight. At this, the Old One traces a rectangle in the air with its hand, which leaves a glowing reddish trail of mystic energy behind. Suddenly the rectangle fills with blackness, as black as night, and the Old One steps in, the magical doorway closing behind it, leaving you alone in the small chamber. You stare for a moment, astonished at what you have just witnessed, but soon you are back at to the business in hand. Searching the chamber, you find that all the scrolls and books are in some script you have no knowledge of, nor do you find anything else of interest save for a loose torch bracket in one wall. You pull it open and it clicks down. Then a section of the wall swings open, revealing the throne room of the Overlord of Irsmuncast. Now, I'm going to check the current episode length. If it's short enough, I'll play on. If it's long enough, I will stop here and then start recording again for a second episode. So, if this is where we end, well, let's see. Okay, we're about 41 minutes in. I think we can make the attempt. The throne room is decorated with the insignia of the Usurper, but you can see the hippogriff and checkerboard coat of arms behind the throne, and a statue of a warrior woman or the goddess Dharma beyond it. Sitting on the carven throne is the Usurper. You have never before seen his likeness, but the cold eyes and cruel yet handsome face could only be those of a tyrant. He is dressed in cloth of gold, which shimmers as he moves, and he bears the golden rose crown of the overlords of Irsmuncast on his brow. Although you have made no sound, he senses you, turning his head to look as you leap into the throne room. He is alone and unarmed. The doors are shut, and there are no guards within. All you have to do is kill him, and the people of Irsmuncast will be free of the yoke of his oppression. You reach for a shuriken, intending to rip his throat out before he can call for help, but he merely smiles and beckons you to him. We do not have the skill of poison needles. We could rush in to attack him, or use our silver shuriken. let us do just that. The silver shuriken whistles across the throne room and flies to its mark in the usurper's throat, but the smile never leaves his face. The silver star falls out of the wound and clatters to the marble floor, and the blood that flows is not red, but purplish black. At first it seems as if the shuriken has done some harm. The usurper's flesh burns red and bloated, then spikes start to grow out of his back with a noise of tearing flesh. Before your very eyes the usurper is turning into a Duke of Hell. As you stare transfixed, he has grown huge bat-like wings, terrible claws and fangs, his face transformed into a mask of hellish evil far beyond the petty malevolence of mortals. We still do not have the skill of poisoned needles. Oh dear. So, you dare to challenge Astaroth, 7th Duke of Hell, puny mortal. Note Astaroth instead of Ashtaroth to avoid being biblical or AD&D 1st edition Monster Manual copyright. If you could claim copyright on myth, folklore, legend, and indeed religion that has existed long before you write down your own little reference to something. The Hell Duke's flesh burns red, and the great leathery wings exude a nauseating stench which causes you to gag. Cursing fate, who has made it your destiny to fight Ashtaroth, one of the great, most powerful denizens of the 9 hells. You screw up your courage and give battle. Will you use a kick, either the winged horse or Quan's flail if you know it, or the tiger's paw chop? You know what, we're going to use the tiger's paw chop again, because sometimes our defense is lower when we kick. And now, with this image in sight, the title of this episode should be a lot more relevant. This is clearly far above our capabilities. You dodge nimbly to Ashtaroth's side, but as you do so, a cloud of steam hisses from his nostrils, almost boiling you alive. You lose 4 endurance before you can chop. If you're still alive, you may attack. We are boiled, steamed, down to 16 endurance points. Astaroth, the 7th Duke of Hell, has a defense of 8 against the tiger's paw chop. That's not ideal. We miss. We do not land a blow. Otherwise, if you hit him for the first time, we get to go to another section. Otherwise, you are forced back under a fusillade of death-dealing blows. Your defense against Astaroth's champing jaws is 6, and he deals 3 dice of damage. That is really bad, and he has 33 endurance points, which I suppose I should technically write down here. So, a 4 misses us mercifully. Wow! I might make it through this fight tonight after all. If you are wearing a locket containing the hair of a saint, it protects you, and you lose 3 less endurance from the dice show if Astaroth hits you. We do indeed have the locket, heart-shaped porcelain blue locket, Saint's Forelock. If you're wearing a circlet with a ruby gem, this also protects you, and you lose 4 less endurance from the dice show. In other words, 7 less damage. So if he hits us, we are reasonably protected. However, if he does hit us, okay, lucky there. But let's just do that again a few more times. 10s would be 3. Okay, we're getting nice low dice rolls tonight. I mean, let's hope that doesn't happen when we're attacking. But he could potentially hit for 18. Less 7 would be 11 damage of our 16 endurance. And he has 33 endurance points. If you survive, you may chop again. Or we could try and kick. Unless you have already tried to kick or chop twice. Now, if we try to kick, his defense is lower, but so is ours, and he spits lightning at us for 4 damage. So, we dodge around his missed attack, but the steam deals another 4 points of damage, taking us down to 12 endurance points. This is obviously very bad. So let us attempt. We chop at him again and miss. He will once again strike at us. That 7 is a hit, so we will attempt to block because we like being alive very much. We block successfully, taking the impact on the iron rods fitted into the sleeves of our ninja suit. And now we have tried to attack him twice, so we go to section 251. Astaroth catches you in his claws and hurls you against the statue of the goddess Dharma. You land with a sickening thud as your head hits the statues, and lose 3 endurance, taking us down to an even lower 9 points. If you are still alive, you may drink a healing potion if you have one. We do not have a healing potion. We have not come across one in this entire adventure. Somewhere in the palace, you hear a shout and the clash of arms, but inside the throne room, Astaroth steps back onto the throne and roars, "Scourge! My servant, come to me!" The name Scourge seems to echo dully, as if the Duke of Hell had shouted into a bottomless well. Suddenly a new monster faces you. Astaroth has summoned one of his servants, a greater devil from the Inferno. Scourge has the body of a giant centaur, but his tail is a mass of writhing serpents, and his head is a lion's skull. His steaming flanks drip black blood. Scourge roars and gallops to the attack, and you are hard put to defend yourself while Astaroth lolls at ease on the throne. You decide to use kicks against Scourge, who is too tall for punches to really affect him. Scourge, the centaur devil, has a defense of 7 against the leaping tiger kick, but a defense of 5 against the Quan's flail kick. He has 22 endurance. Now, we were not instructed to track Astaroth's health. Our kick modifier is, I believe, +2. So, it is +2. For Quan's flail kick, we're essentially trying to roll anything but a double 1. We kick. We kick for a mere 4 points of damage. Now, the thing we would have been instructed if we struck Astaroth is that he takes half damage from all our blows. So we would have been looking to try and find a way to deal 66 points of damage in 2 attacks. So it's basically impossible. Your blows affect Scourge as if he were a normal beast while he is not in hell, but inner force does not affect him. The locket and the ruby circlet will protect you against Scourge, as they did against Astaroth, as the centaur devil rears and smashes down his iron hooves to stave in your skull. Your defense as you try to leap aside is 7, or 8 if you are an acrobat. We do not have acrobatics. If you have survived 2 of his attacks, turn to another section. So, again, this is not a fight to the death. Scourge assails us with his mighty hooves, which come pounding down. That's a hit. We attempt to block. That is bang on the defense, and as we know, you need to roll over defense to land a hit. It's not a target number, it's a threshold which must be surpassed. So, we shall kick again. If we were hoping to deal 22 points of damage in 2 kicks, even with inner force, full inner force, the most we could do would be 6, 8, 16. So it's possible, but not very possible. And there's no if you have defeated Scourge options. So We'll go for a normal kick, which lands for 8 more points. Now, I'm going to track this number even though I'm not instructed to. Scourge now attempts to pound down upon us with his hooves. We attempt to block because we don't want to die. And again, 6 and a 1 is 7, just like the 5 and the 2. We are not struck. We have survived 2 of his attacks. So there is another development. This might seem like we're doing well, but we have taken 11 points of damage already, 55% of our total health. You leap back as Scourge's iron hooves throw up a shower of marble chips, and your blood runs cold as you hear Astaroth and Scourge cry together, "Hazabol and Mazabol, devils of twilight, come to us!" If you still have a potion of healing, you may gulp it now as 2 more horrendous forms appear before the throne. 2 hyenas as large as the gates of the Temple Rock, with eyes of liquid fire, stare at you balefully, tensing as if to spring. If you travel to Irsmuncast on the piebald charger of a paladin, we did indeed turn to 198 as the devils of twilight begin to laugh so loudly that you can hardly think for terror. Otherwise, we would be well and truly screwed. The doors of the throne room burst open and Doré Lejeune enters with a rattle of armour. He has fought his way through the guards to the throne room alone. "I smelt evil. We meet again, Scourge. Astaroth. I am honoured, but your sojourn on Orb is at an end." With that, he rushes to the attack. His holy sword cuts glittering arcs through the air as he engages Astaroth and the devils of twilight together. You must fight Scourge. Once again, you decide to use kicks against him, for he is too tall for punches really to affect him. I don't know of any reason why Scourge would be fully healed at this point. He was not described as being healed during the summoning. I am going to decide that he still has 10 endurance remaining. I could fight this fight with him at full health, but it would be, going through the motions again, and any time he would hit me, it could seriously screw me up. Your blows affect Scourge as if he were a normal beast while he is not in hell, but this is the same as before. Our defense is the same. If Scourge is still attacking, you must kick him again. We kick. Quonsfale kick, obviously. Quonsfale kick lands. For 5 points of damage. And now, Scourge will attack us once again. That 8 is higher than a 7. That is a hit. Let's see the damage. Six points. We reduce it by 7. Technically, we should probably decide to block before seeing the damage, but I decided to just take it because I didn't want the penalty to hit. But I can afford to block. His defense is 5. I'm hitting on a 4+ on 2d6. So I'd go up to a 6+. I can afford to block. However, for now, I'll just kick once again. 9. Successful. And 9 points of damage. Oh, the Scourge is defeated. Mercifully. If you win, Scourge disappears, banished to the spirit plane, and Astaroth alone of the devils remain. Doré Lejeune is wounded and too exhausted to carry on. You must fight Astaroth again, but he has been weakened by the Paladin's attentions. You choose to use the Iron Fist Punch. Astaroth has a defense of 8 against the Iron Fist Punch. His endurance is now 6 whole points. much less than the original 33.5 damage. The Holy Sword was probably dealing full damage against him. If Astaroth still fights on, you try to avoid his champing jaws. Your defense is 8. He still does 3 damage, 3 dice of damage, and we're not described as being protected by the ruby circlet and locket anymore. Although we can probably assume that we are still protected by them. 1 Iron Fist punch coming up. That 8 will not pass his defense, so we do not land a blow. Astaroth attacks us. 12, that's very bad. We shall block. And he misses. We will now punch again. 2d6 minus 1, because plus 1 minus 2 is minus 1. We punch. I should have used inner force, but the minus 1 ate my confidence. So, we deal 4 points of damage. The Usurper, Astaroth, the Duke of Hell, now has 2 remaining endurance points, but he attacks us, trying to chomp with his mighty jaws once again. That 8. Our defense is 8. That misses. We will punch once more. That 7 will miss. He will attack. That hits. We will block. That misses. We will punch. That does not hit. If he... Okay, so now... Oh, no, we can take 1 or 2 hits. He attacks us, which misses. We punch. That hits. We need to roll more than a 1. We rolled a 2. Exactly the number we wanted. Perfectly measured, tempered force. Victory is ours. As the paladin sort of lies crumpled against a pillar, having defeated 2 greater demons and seriously wounded a Duke of Hell, we are entirely, eternally grateful. Once you have made sure that Dore Lejeune will not die, you move to the doors of the throne room. Dore asks what lies beyond this room, pointing to the dungeons, and you tell him, warning him of the cave trolls. "Cave trolls!" he cries, and heads determinedly in their direction. That's a paladin. He's like, "Don't worry, I'll go take care of it. It's got to be done." Wondering whether you will ever see him again, you turn to the doors once more. There is still much to be done. There is much still to be done. Let's see how this goes. The throne room is silent. No trace of Astaroth remains. The rose crown lies wedged against the statue of Dharma, but you leave it where it lies. There is yet much to do. Outside the throne room, the corridors are deserted. Your garrote slices through the throat of an orcish guard on the landing, and then you are climbing the easternmost tower of the palace. You know what? I should remember to mark off my flash powder, because I've used it. Yeah, there we go. Good. The top of the winding stair ends at the tower roof. The sky is blue above the battlements. The Usurper's flag, a stag with spiral horns and a barbed tail, flutters in the breeze. A single pull on the rope draws it down below the battlements. If you only carry, or once carried, a statuette of the goddess of Dharma, something will happen. If you carry the statuette and a coin with your father's head on it, we have the small statue of Dharma and the Coronation Day coin, so we go to that section. If you have only the coin, if you have neither of them, we have the statuette and the coin, so we have the most items. Let's hope this is a good thing. As the silk flag flutters down to the tower roof, you walk to the battlements and look out over the panorama of the city. It may be a paranormal panorama, it depends what the Priests of Time are up to. You can clearly see Force Lady Gwyneth on a grey warhorse, apparently inspecting her troops. They are ranged in serried ranks on the parade ground beyond Cross Street. The majority are women dressed in chainmail, but a sizable number of men, too, carry the lozenge-shaped shields of Dharma. A few are in full plate armour, their faces hidden behind visors. A small detachment of half-orcs and men bearing the Usurper's stag emblems slouch nearby at ease. Gwyneth's lieutenant points up at you, and the trumpeter sounds 5 short notes. Gwyneth shouts a command, and the shield maidens divide into 2, half marching towards the palace and half towards the army barracks. The detachment of half-orcs and men react slowly. Many have fallen to quick sword thrusts before they realize that a revolt has begun. Then they flee. The skill at arms of Gwyneth's warriors is a joy to behold as they meet the Usurper's men in open battle on the streets below. They are reinforced by the monks of Quan, and for some time the fighting sways back and forth, but the warrior women are outnumbered and their advance is halted before the palace gates. Looking down to Cross Street, you can see that the barracks is holding out, and a group of priests are leaving the Temple of Nemesis, marching to the relief of the army. The battle hangs in the balance. There is nothing you can do but watch. It would be foolish to fight your way out through the palace. Suddenly, as if from nowhere, a horde of people appear around the priests of Nemesis. The mob has risen, arming themselves with short swords, axes, and clubs. The spells of the priests kill many of the crowd, but they are forced to retire inside the temple. The word spreads like wildfire through the city, and the streets become thronged with people. The army are forced to give way, and the shield maidens and monks gain the walls of the palace garden. If the Shogun Kiyamo of the Island of Plenty gave you 100 samurai under the command of Onikaba, and you ordered them to follow you across the Man March rather than through the Valley of Lich Kings, no such thing occurred. Otherwise, it is only a matter of time before the Usurper's army must surrender. So, if they were here, I think we'd see them fighting in the battle as well. If we had not gained the support of so many factions, the battle would not go so well. And in one case, where we've only got so much support, the 100 samurai make a really big difference, and I think can win the battle for us. Without them, fortunately, we have gained enough support, and the Usurper's army must surrender, and we go to the legendary Section 420, which is the Section 400 of Fighting Fantasy fame. The tide of battle has turned in your favour. As the Usurper's half-orc guards fall back towards the palace gates, it seems everyone has declared for you. The shield maidens make a determined attack, and the rabble pelt the half-orcs with bricks and spears. Golspiel's mercenaries arrive as the monks of Quan scale the walls of the palace gardens. Only the Priests of Time do not take to the streets in your support. Seeing that there is no hope left, the palace guards surrender, and the Force Lady Gwyneth orders them to be confined to barracks after they have lain down their swords. You walk down the stairs of the tower and out into the garden, and a great cheer goes up as the rapturous crowd recognize you. "Behold your new overlord, Avenger!" cries the High Grandmaster of the Temple of Quan. At evening that day you are seated in the throne room of the palace. Your father's flag flies proudly once again, where until today that of the Usurper had flown. Force Lady Gwyneth raises the rose crown of Irsmuncast and hands it to the High Grandmaster. Bowing your head, you give thanks to Quan as she sets the crown upon your brow, saying, "I crown thee Avenger, Overlord of the city-state of Irsmuncast nigh Edge, protector of the Man March against the Rift." A loud cheer echoes around the throne room, but the people cheering you are all strangers. You put a brave face on it. As you process onto the balcony and the crowd screams its adulation, you reflect that the days ahead will be a true test of your wisdom. Can you sow the seeds of good government in a city of religious schisms, racial tensions, unscrupulous greed, and warring factions with proud leaders? Only time will tell in what could be your greatest challenge yet. The next book of the series. And with that, our adventure comes to an end. The Usurper has been thrown down. Avenger restored to his rightful place. I think it wasn't necessary to make the Usurper a demon or devil in disguise. But it is the kind of escalation this series likes to go for. And if he were a mere mortal man, like a powerful sorcerer or something, with many bodyguards, it could have felt like a bit of a letdown after the previous stuff with the demonic monster in the forest. Now, the fight against Astaroth and Scourge could have easily gone the other way. Having to fight Scourge at full health, we could have just continued to block and then hopefully defeated Astaroth. We could have used our last point of inner force to try to one-hit kill Astaroth to try and get all 6 of those points of damage in one go because of a double strength punch, as long as we didn't roll a 1 or 2, so that would have been a 4 in 6 chance of victory. I was feeling like I was on a bit of a roll and my luck could run out at any moment though, so that's why I went with the interpretation that the outstanding damage to Scourge should remain, because it wasn't described as being removed in any way at all. That being said, that final encounter is an exercise in defending, which again is down to random dice rolls. If we had managed to successfully throw a shuriken, let's do that now actually, right? 2d6 minus 1, because a luck modifier of +1, and yeah, we would have failed to throw a ninja star at the old one and probably have our brain melt out our ears or something. I think it's nice to have completed another book. I will definitely be progressing to book 4 in the not too distant future. And I will say, where are we? Book 4 holds very few memories for me. However, what I do remember about Book 4 is there is a section in a boat where we head along a great sort of gorge with a river at the bottom, whereby we are presented with... Is there a map? I don't think there is a map for this one. Interesting. We are presented with a choice of turning left or right, with no guidance as to either direction. This is the first time in the series where following the fighting fantasy rule would get us killed. And you may think, but what about that time where you turned right when you were swimming back down the tunnel from the... We had evidence. We had a narrow tunnel and a wide tunnel, right? We had reasons to go the way we went. This is the first time where, with no other guidance, just physical directions, the fighting fantasy rule fails in the series. Well, Avenger has been restored to his rightful place, and it's 4 minutes past 5 in the morning and the washing machine's going, so I should really wait for it to finish, hang up the washing, and probably go to bed. Get this episode uploaded for you all. And hooray! We finished another book. We are heroes. I did have doubts and concerns and fears, knowing how deadly this section can be. Luckily, Dore Lejeune came to our rescue. We would have been well screwed without him, but if we did not have his help, we may have gained the healing potion and the magical rune-carved dagger that was referred to a lot of times. But I'm not sure they would have helped us that much, given how much the Paladin was able to assist us. We will meet him again. He is alive in later books, so he did survive the cave trolls. Just as I need to survive some sleep. Yeah. Okay, everybody. That's it for now. We are victorious and heroic. Glad you all made it this far. See you all next time, although I might record another game book before coming in for book 4, just to vary things up a little. Goodbye for now, everyone, and thank you very much for watching.